lovelies, thanks for stopping by my channel. I am incredibly excited for today's video because it's about makeup brushes and it's about BK Beauty makeup brushes. Now, if you are not new to my channel, you will know I really love me some BK Beauty, and I was so excited when they were going to be launching new brushes in collaboration from Angie Hot and Flashy. Now, if you don't know who Angie is, she is another wonderful creator here on YouTube. I am so excited that BK Beauty and Angie came together to create this set of 7 brushes. So today, I'm going to be sharing with you all of the details. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on these brushes. I'm going to be doing this look here. I really think it turned out like fall vibes. I'm really loving it. So if you want to see the details, stick around for that. And I'm going to be doing comparisons to other brushes as well. So if you want to know if maybe you have some in your collection that are similar to these, or if there's something that you're looking for, I will hopefully be able to help you out in that. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist. And here on my channel, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Now, like I said, I'm really excited to go through these because I love me some BK Beauty brushes. This is not even all of the BK Beauty that I have purchased, but it's my little bouquet that I decided to gather up. So it's no secret that my #1 love for BK Beauty came from this brush right here, the BK 101. This is my forever and ever must-have foundation brush. And when I heard that this set was going to have a baby for concealer, I knew right away that I was going to be wanting to get this set. There's also another brush in here that I've been asking for forever. I've been sort of like stalking BK Beauty on Instagram. Please give it to us. Please give it to us. So they were probably like, chill, Kelly, it's coming. It's coming. But I really wanted it. So I'm going to get into that in a little bit. Now, I'm also incredibly excited because I reached out to BK Beauty and I have a discount code for all of my lovelies. I am now a BK Beauty affiliate. I'm so excited and honored. As you can see, I really love me some BK. I have purchased all of the BK Beauty that I have, but I just figured if I'm going to be sharing my obsession with all of you, I thought I could save you some cash. So I will have my affiliate link down below. If you do click on that link, I will receive a commission and you can use the code KEEPBEAUTYREAL to save 10%. So I'm so excited. It's sort of like stalking them for so long has paid off. For you, save some money. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into this. So like I said, if you don't know Angie from Angie Hot and Flashy, she really caters her YouTube content around a more mature makeup wearer. I would say more of that like 50 and older crowd. And I love Angie. She is very real. She is so well spoken and so sweet. So I think that she really goes with the BK Beauty brand really beautifully. So I am, by the way, if we haven't met and you don't know, I just turned 40. So I am like tipping into that zone. So I have noticed in the last 20 years or so, over time, I've really started to realize that certain tools work better in makeup application. So I watched both Angie and Lisa's videos the day of the launch, and you know, Angie said, this is why I chose this for a mature skin type. So I really value that she was taking her group of followers and her group of subscribers in and really trying to create something for her community. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be 50 and older to use the set. It just means that Angie thought that this was a set that's really going to be great for that group of makeup wearers. So in today's video, this is my first time using this set. I do have to say, I ordered it, like day of the launch, I ordered, and then they came right when I was leaving town and they kind of like sat here for a little bit. By the way, can I just say, I actually was in the Austin, Texas area, and when I emailed BK and I saw that they were in Austin, I was like, I could have stalked them even further. I could have shown up like a creeper. But obviously I didn't, and I wouldn't. Don't worry, Lisa. But anyway, I just have to say, like, they kind of sat here for a little bit. So this is a first impressions video, but I have to say, I've had some of my BK Beauty for over, gosh, probably closer to 1.5 years now. So this is not my first rodeo with the brand, and that's why I was very excited to pick up this set, because I do think that these brushes are really good quality. So while this is my first time using these brushes, I've used BK Beauty before, and I am a makeup artist for 20 plus years now, so it's not my first rodeo. Anyway, we are going to get into my thoughts right now. I'm going to give you the details on this set, and then we will get into the makeup application. All right, so This brush set is 7 pieces for $125, but if you use a code like mine, you can get 10% off. Now, I really love that BK Beauty offers free shipping on orders of $50 or above, so you wouldn't have to pay shipping for this brush set, which is great. So we're gonna chat a little bit about these brushes and the number that they're ordered. I'll give you a few of the little details. I know that Angie did a great video on her channel, and if you just wanna see a creator so excited about something that they have created, you should go check out her video. I will have her video and Lisa J's video down below. And by the way, if you don't know who Lisa J is, she is the owner of BK Beauty and another amazing content creator here on YouTube. I just assume that everybody knows these people. They're sort of like everyday names in my world. But if you don't know that, I will have both of those wonderful ladies linked down below so you can check them out. But anyway, the brushes. I really like that the brush still has a very similar vibe to the original BK Beauty brush. I think that these brushes feel very luxe. They look really luxe. I do have to say, I do prefer the color story of this better than what Angie chose, but again, it's not my collection. You guys know I would probably do something rose gold, everything rose gold. So this brush is more of like a pewter finish, and it does have a very slight sparkle to it. It's not glittery. It's just almost like car paint, if you will. And of course they have the silver ferrule as opposed to the gold ferrule. They feel very luxurious. I like that they are a bit longer handle than some brushes. It just balances out the weight in your hand a bit more, and it feels a bit more professional. So they do have the BK Beauty logo and the Angie Hot and Flashy logo on here as well, as most collabs do, right? So here we have the A501, and again, A for Angie, and then Angie said that the way that she picked the numbers is obviously she sort of caters to the 50 and above crowd, so she wanted to honor that and celebrate that, and so it's 50 for 50 and then the number of her brushes. So here we have the first brush. So this 501 brush is what I would consider the typical like blender shadow brush. And by the way, it is dirty because it's how I got here. So this is a brush that is going to be really nice for one and done shadows. It's going to be great if you just want to lay something on the lid and sort of like buff and blend out into your crease. And it's also really nice if you just like a more diffused look. So this is really just a classic brush that anyone can use. And I'm not digging too deeply into how I feel about these brushes. You will be able to see that as I apply them. I'm just giving you a little lowdown if you just want the deets real quick. And by the way, I will have everything timestamped down below if you haven't seen it already. There are chapters if you need to skip around and find the information that is most valuable for you. So here we have the 502 brush. This brush I was so excited for. This is a perfect, like, almost like deep crease detailer brush. If you have small eyes, if you have hooded eyes, this is going to be a great brush. I love that these are a bit more densely packed because I find that sometimes with synthetics, they can tend to be a little too like, you know, and I want to be able to really concentrate and pack on color and then be able to blend out as much as I want. So I really do think this is a beautiful shape. Along with that, we have the 503 brush. This is more of a fluffy crease brush. This is going to be a brush that's going to be really good to put down your transition shade, to be able to blend out. It is fluffy and big, but it does have a bit of a taper, which I really like because it still allows you a little bit of control. When you have a brush like this that has this very tip, you could just very lightly dip this brush into a pan, have it on the very, very edge, and start working, and then just add pressure and movement and be able to get a very controlled look with a big brush if you needed to. If you could like only take one brush to a desert island or something, you could use that for this. So that is the 503. This is probably going really well so far. All right, the 504 is what I would say is like the baby of the 502. It is more concise. It does not splay out as much, and it's much smaller, but it still has that nice density and that nice tapered, almost like tulip effect. This is a brush that is going to be so nice for packing into the outer corner, to really getting, I mean, you could probably get a pretty decent cut crease with this if that's your jam. This is really great to use as a like smudger brush for under the lower lash line. And it's actually, boy, it's packed enough that I bet if you use like a kohl liner or an eyeliner that has a bit of a smudge ability to it, you could like really blend that out too. So this is a really nice one. Honestly, I feel like I am so excited to have these two brushes in my collection, the 504 and the 502, because these are brushes that I use a lot. I like, you know, more natural looks like this, but I do also, well, okay, to me this is natural. Maybe not to you, but I also like very colorful, bright, fun looks that have multiple colors, and I like these more detailed brushes, so I really appreciate that. So then we have the 505 brush. This is the brush. This is the brush that I've been stalking BK Beauty about. This is the flat shader brush. I have wanted a flat shader brush from BK Beauty forever because they have such great quality synthetics. I love having brushes like this to be able to lay down super sparkly colors, to be able to even put down like primer bases or like a shadow base. This is great to be able to use to put on a cream shadow base if you want like a really like bang in foiled end result, and then you could come back through with the 501 and just blur out the edges. This is really going to mimic your finger as much as possible. So I think maybe a silicone applicator would do that even more, but this is the closest thing within a brush in my opinion. So I was very excited to see that we were going to be getting a flat shader brush. I have some thoughts on this, things that maybe I would tweak about it, but it is a brush that I was really looking forward to and I'm excited to have in my collection. Now, the two face brushes. So we have the 506. This is the Baby 101 that I was so excited for. So I know that the 101, I'm not the only one that loves that brush. And a lot of people were like, give us a small one for concealer. And so when Angie wanted to create that, it was like, oh my gosh, like Lisa said, like, yes, why didn't I think of that? So this brush, I was very excited to be able to try out for concealer, and side note, I did use it for other applications on my face today, so you'll be able to see that within this video. The other brush that we have is the A507, and this is your, honestly, it's your standard sort of like tapered cheek brush, your angled cheek brush. This is a brush shape that I don't personally use a lot. I really wasn't that disappointed that it was in this set because I figured I would grab for it at some points, and I love the feel of BK Beauty brushes. They are the softest synthetic brushes I have ever felt, yet not so soft that they do nothing. Does that make sense? Because sometimes it's like a brush can be so soft that like it doesn't pick any product up. It's like sometimes brushes are so soft that you like dip something in the pan and you feel like you're using that like $2.99 makeup that your mom would bring home from the dollar store when you were like a tiny little girl and you could feel like you were putting on makeup but you weren't actually putting anything on. This is not that brush. This is going to give you full impact, full pigment, exactly what you're looking for, but it's a big one, and I'm not team big brush, but I did use it today, so you'll get to see if I enjoyed it and all my thoughts. So I just wanted to give you a quick little rundown on this set. Like I said, we're going to be going into a full face application. I hope that you enjoy sort of like the chit chat style. Let me know if you prefer that I just insert pictures of me using it and like give you concise information, but I just felt like sitting down with my friends and talking about some makeup brushes. So that's what we're going to do right now. And again, if you need to, timestamps down below, skip around to whatever you need. All right, we are just going to dive right in. I've zoomed you in a bit so you can see what I see. I did start out with a bit of foundation. I actually just went through with the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue. This is the shade Ginger. I'm almost out of it, and it's probably a good thing because it's almost tipping towards too dark for me now that the Wisconsin fall and winter is starting to suck the life out of me. But I did go through with my very trusty, very loved, very needed BK Beauty 101. It's dirty because I just used it, but I have 3 of these in my collection, and if you are new to my channel, I also put one in my 1,000 subscriber giveaway because I love it so much. That whole giveaway thing for me was like, you know, when you're out shopping, I just mentioned this in another video, where it's like you're out shopping and you really want to buy something for a friend and you want to get things that you love. So it was sort of like a one for me, one for you situation. So if you are not new, you'll know how much I yammer on about this brush, so I'm not going to go into this too much. But if you do want to hear me yammer on about this one and all of the other brushes that I absolutely love, I do have a favorite must-have makeup brush video. I will make sure to have that linked down in the description box. But that is what I use. That's all that's on my face right now. I'm actually going to do the eyes first, and then we will go through and use a couple of the brushes on our face as well. So for my eyeshadow today, I'm actually going to go through, use an oldie but a goodie, the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette. I actually just recently found this one in my collection when I was going through for my If I Could Only Keep 10 palettes video. This one did not make that cut, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, perfect for fall. We're just gonna go in. It's not really about the shadow, it's about the brushes, and I know that I really like this formula, so I thought that this would be what we give a go. Now I am going to put a bit of concealer on my eyelids. Usually it's like half the time I use concealer, half the time I use the Urban Decay primer, but the Urban Decay primer does give a little like to the lids sometimes, and so I want to use a concealer that isn't really going to change like the texture, the grippiness of my lid so that I can see how these brushes are on their own. I'm sure I'll be using them with the primer in the future. Just stick around for other videos and I'm sure you'll see that. But I am going to go through with my Omo Woke concealer. I'm trying to use a lot of my like tried and trues for this video just so that I know like it's not the product in case I have any issues, and I know that it's really just the brushes and not the product. So I'm just putting the lightest amount of this on my eyelid right now just to like cover up any veins and discoloration that I have. Okay, so the first brush I'm actually going to use is the A503, and I'm just using this to like fluff a little bit of translucent powder to set that concealer down. This also just helps prevent a little bit of creasing, and it just gives us a really nice smooth canvas to buff our shadows onto. This brush feels just as soft as my other BK Beauty brushes. The bristles, that is one thing that I found right away the first time I used my BK brushes. It's like, wow, for synthetics, these are super, super soft. Now, usually for this step, I could as easily go through with the BK. Now, I could very easily have just gone through with the 201. This actually would maybe be a bit quicker to like blur and blend just because it has a bit more surface area on the top because it's slightly domed. It's not like completely flat, but this one is definitely more tapered, but this works just fine. I'm really trying to treat this set as like, if this is the only makeup brush set that you had, right? Like, how would you do? So I'm trying not to use any other brushes. Actually, why don't we start off by taking that 503 brush and we're just gonna go into the shade Transition, and I'm just going to like blur this up through the upper crease just to give myself like a starting shape. Now, I actually have quite a few of the 201 brushes and I love them. I think that they're really nice for like, especially just to use as a dry brush to just blur along the edges of a look when you're looking to soften out, you know, an eye look that you've done and you're almost complete and you just want to put that like kiss of perfection on the look. But this brush I actually really like because it is a bit tapered at the end. You can get a bit more accuracy with it to be able to place more color rather than just blend and blur. So this would be a great brush for like a one and done if you very quickly just want to like run something onto your eyelid and be out the door. So I could definitely see this shape becoming something I use quite a bit and that I want extras of. I am really looking forward to these brushes being available individually. I know I was watching a video that Angie did recently, and of course everybody's been asking if the brushes will be sold individually, and she said yes, that they do plan on doing that, but right now they are still just sold in the set for the launch, and then at some point they will open that up. So I'm hoping it would be really great if they did it like before Black Friday in case they're doing any sales, but we shall see. Granted, this is the first brush that I have actually touched to my face. But I'm already like, let me have the opportunity to get the ones that I love. That's sort of how I feel most of the time. I think sometimes, you know, kits can be a really good deal. And if you truly think you'll use most of the shapes, it's a great way to save a little bit of money. But I really like to curate my favorites. All right, so that's just sort of given me like a little bit of a vision of where I want to go with this. I'm going to take this shade Hashtag. This is just like a nice warm rosy coppery shade, and I'm using the A501. This is sort of like a blender brush and a flat shader brush kind of together. So you can use this to place color all over the lid, but if you do that, it is going to be a more diffused, like softer wash of color. So if you have a shadow that you want to be less intense, like if it gets overly foiled and you want something that, you know, is gonna like mellow that out a little bit, this will do that for you. And again, this is a really good one for like one and done cream shadows. I could see really enjoying this because it's flat enough that you can place that cream on, but the shape of the end could really allow you to like buff out that like crease area really quickly. So this would be like, if you are that person that you're like, I basically use 2 eyeshadow brushes, this could very easily be one of those and you would be good to go. So this is just kind of keeping a softer, it's making this like, I wouldn't say that the shade is like high foil, but it's definitely keeping it in more of that like satin shimmer. Now, if I were to go through with the flat shader brush, the A505, I would get a more intense like metallic look from this shade, but that's not what I'm doing because there's another one that I want to be the star of the show. Now, for myself, unless I'm using a cream shadow, I usually like I like flat shader brushes, and then I like crease brushes, if you will. There's not a lot of times where I would reach for this brush shape for eyeshadow, unless it is a cream, but I can see using this for concealer. This would work really nicely for concealer, or if you have like spot concealing you need to do, little areas of the face, just those like little detail spots, this would work really nicely for that. But for me, in my brush collection, in my very large brush collection, this will be the brush that I reach for to put on a cream shadow, or if it's like, oh my gosh, I have 5 minutes to do an eye look, I'll just quickly dip into a shade like this one and pop it on the lid and then just blur the edges out and be done. So like I mentioned, I have been wanting to see a flat shader brush, a flat defining brush from BK Beauty since the first time I tried their brushes. I think it was almost immediately that I messaged on Instagram, hey, love your brushes. I think it would be really great if we could get a flat brush for foils, shimmers, loose pigments, all of that stuff. And I said it a few times. So instantly I knew, well, I knew when Angie talked about the 506 being like a baby 101, I was like, okay, add to cart. And then when she talked about the flat shader, I was like, yes, definitely happening. So hopefully you can kind of see this brush doesn't quite come to a full point, but it isn't rounded at the edges either. It is also a bit longer. I have a feeling for me, this might not be my favorite flat definer. So one of my favorite brushes to use on my lid, and he's kind of wonky because I think he got like dried, sort of crooked, but this is the Wayne Goss 18 that you can't get anymore. You can see that I do actually like the slimness of this one, and it's definitely like a denser pack, but what I'm just talking about here is the shortness of the bristle this way, because if you have a small amount of lid space or you're wanting to get into a small area, this is kind of long. So you could turn it this way, of course, but then you're working with more surface area. And I find that if I do this, oftentimes I almost like bump my lower like lash line. So I just wish this was a little bit shorter. That's all I have to say so far. Who knows, maybe it won't be a big deal, but I'm gonna go through with the shade Toffee. It's just a nice gold shade. And I'm going to go through and just dab a bit of this on the center of the lid. So I'm turning it to the side to hopefully avoid that like mess. So the fact that this is not a fluffy brush, it's very flat, the bristles lay really flat. This is going to be one of the closest things to be able to mimic your finger. So, you know, our finger is essentially like one plane, and so it lays all that pigment down smoothly. That's what this is really intended to do as well. By the way, you could also use a brush like this for going over blemishes. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to be careful because this is a bigger brush. You could, in a pinch, also use this as a lip brush, so that is also another option. These flat brushes work well for both of those things. And I'm just taking the 501 to sort of like blend the edges where those two colors meet. This brush is applying this product really, really nicely. I just would have liked it to be like a smidgen shorter. So now we are going to go through with the A502, and I'm going to take this shade Hashtag. It's a really warm, like pumpkin-y shade, and I'm going to work this up into the crease. This brush, I have to say, this brush is one that I would say, you know, excited to get, but when I pulled it out of the package, I was like, oh, she's gonna be nice. Like, I just knew right away. I love small blending crease brushes. I think if you have a small eye shape, if you have hooded lids, and I know that's something, you know, that Angie kind of talked about, was wanting to be able to have something for people that have hooded lids that are starting to have that little bit of turn down. Yours truly is experiencing that. So it's nice to have this shape. I also just like it because if you're someone where you like to put a lot of different colors on your eye, having something that's really nice and small and delicate gives you that opportunity, and you're not making a mess all over your face. So I can already tell this is going to be a brush that I'm going to want multiples of. Now that I have that shape more elongated, I'm just taking that 503. So that probably still has a little bit of that transition shade that I was using, and I'm just using it to like blur out the edges. It's almost like a bit of an eraser, and it just really helps make this seamless. Now going through with a brush that I'm very excited to use, the A504. This one is sort of like the A502's baby sister. Like, it's a similar shape. It's not quite as tapered off, so you're gonna get more movement and blendability with this one. But the A504 is like a delicate placement, like it's like a slightly fluffy long pencil brush. I'm gonna go with that. And it's gonna be what we use to place our deepest shade into the crease and into the corner. So I'm just taking brownie points. This is honestly just like a nice matte brown, and just very lightly tapping that off. And I'm starting in the corner, and I'm just gonna like etch in this shape. So I wanted some nice definition, but nothing too stark. And so I really like that that brush really let me place that color. I'm going back through with the A502 and just at the top of that line, just giving that a bit of a buff. You will find that a lot of times I sort of like go one step forward and go one step back, and then one step beyond that and one step back, just to kind of like keep everything really homogeneous. If you want a very, very blended look, it's just all about like kind of that layering and going through with that like previous size of brush to just buff out any edges and layer that previous color over the top. All right, so we are not done with the eyes yet, but what I want to do is go ahead and add my concealer. By the way, I don't see any fallout. So I feel like the brush, while it definitely picks up pigment and spreads it beautifully, it isn't like picking up too much powder compared to like other brushes. So you're not getting like fallout everywhere. So that's very appreciated. Now, as you can see, the A506 definitely has a similar shape to the 101. And I'm very excited to try this out. Now, again, I usually go through with a similar shape to the 501 for my concealer, but I have a feeling this is going to work so nicely in all of these little areas. I'm so excited about this brush. If it's anything like the 101, I'm going to be buying several of them. I really like also that the BK Beauty brushes clean up really nicely. So I feel like they are one of my go-tos for cream products, just because they honestly, they just hold up so well. And usually when I'm using creams, you know, there's a bit more of a firmness involved when you are cleaning them. So I want to use something that's pretty durable. All right, the true test. So we're going to just work this through. And again, I'm using the Oma concealer because I know that I love that concealer. And so I know that if something funny happens with this concealer, it's not the concealer itself, it's the brush, because I use this one all the time. Now, the one thing that I like about this shape is you're able to like get up really close and almost like just pull and flick and, you know, sort of skim and blend that product where you know, want to work away from having product. Because I think sometimes people blend so much that all of a sudden they have concealer like all over their face. So this is a way to just almost like lift up gently as you go, and this brush is going to help you, you know, sort of like stop the blur. Yeah, this definitely did a great job. I need to play with it a little bit more to see if it's going to be like my new go-to, but I do think it's going to be nice if you need a little bit higher coverage. You can also use this to like stipple rather than like buff out. If you're used to doing more like circular motions, this isn't the type of shape you want. You might want something that's more like this other brush, but this is going to be great for just like almost like stamping in. You could also use this for like a hella tight contour or for highlight. I think we might try it for highlight tonight. We will see. I'm also just realizing, speaking of tonight, it is 10 to 10 at night, and I am doing this video after a long day at work, but I really wanted to play with these brushes and get a video out for all of you to let you know my thoughts, but I've been up for a long time, so I'm just realizing how red my eyes are, so I'm gonna go take care of that. I'll be back, and I can't wait to play with the rest of these brushes. Okay, I'm gonna go through really quick and just put a little bit of setting powder. I'm using my RCMA No Color powder that's in my project pan. I'm gonna get a couple inches off this baby. I am. This bottle is gonna work its way down, but I'm just using that to like dust a little bit everywhere I put that concealer. This is one of the biggest brushes that I own. You guys know I'm not really team big brush, but for a big brush, this is a very nice one. I think I got this in a kit. I have a feeling that's why I got it. I must have gotten like the full shebang, and this was one that was in there. I'm just not a huge big brush lover, but this brush is nice. It's just big. Speaking of big brushes, here we have the A507. So this is Angie's answer to blush and bronzer. So this was the one brush that I was like, if I was patient, if I was patient and I ordered them as singles, this is the one that I would never have picked up on my own for a couple reasons. Again, I'm not really team big brush, and in all honesty, I don't really use a lot of like contoured brushes. If I do, it is more for bronzer and not so much for blush. I just prefer like a tapered, a tulip, or a round brush for my personal blush application. And also, this just is so big. Like, I know Angie had said, you know, she wanted something that was tapered and, you know, that would, again, be good for mature skin. Like, this isn't going to tug because it's got like nice, long, flexible bristles, which I will totally agree with. I just think it's so big. I think a lot of people are going to put too much bronzer or blush on with a brush that's so big, because by the time you blend it, I feel like you're working in an area that's pretty big. And we talked about this before. If you're someone that is wanting to have a more lifted face, you really need to keep your color above, a higher up on your face. And it's harder to do that with a bigger brush, which is part of the reason why I just don't like to use a big brush. So I will use this for glowy bronzer. I could actually see using this for like finishing powder even, but I probably won't use this for blush on the regular. We will see. I might eat my words because I am going to use this for my bronzer and blush today, and we will find out. All right, let's go ahead and pull out a bronzer that I know that just blends beautifully on the skin. This is the Tom Ford Glow Bronzer. I have the shade Terra, and we are just going to put this on. I feel like right now this is going to be good because it's not like a super dark bronzer, and it's more like neutral, so it's not going to give me like overly like trying to pretend like I live in a different state than I do kind of bronze. It's just going to like give us a little bit of shape and warmth to the face. So again, like a tapered brush like this is meant to be able to sort of like hug the contours of your cheek. And I mean, I'm not really having too much of a problem, but if you are using a very pigmented shade, something that you need to have a bit more wiggle room with, I personally want to use a smaller brush. I will say this does feel very nice and soft. I like the flexibility that the bristles have. Because it is looser, you're going to get much more of a blur. So this, I would say, is like medium packed. It's not as loosely packed as like a duo fiber brush or a wispier brush. So for instance, like a wispy brush, I consider the Wayne Goss number 14 brush. This has a lot of like wisp to it. This one is a little bit more tightly packed than that, but it's not a super dense brush. But on that note, because it's not a super dense brush, I personally, even though this is a synthetic brush, I don't think that I would use this for creams, just because it doesn't have quite enough muscle to it to be the ideal brush for creams. Again, maybe at some point I will try it with cream and I'll let you guys know, but it's just not, it's not what I would think of, especially to try to pick up a cream in a pan. I'd have to come through like this, pinch it to be able to get that out and then put it on. That is the other thing you could do with a brush like this if you feel like it's too big, is you can pinch it below the ferrule and like tap something in if you want like a nice sharp contour. Obviously you're having to do a little bit more work, but that is something that you could do. So you can see here, this bronzer is just, it's obviously like very natural looking, but my goodness, it is the middle of October almost. So I'm trying not to look too like beachy mama. Since I did do a little bit more chill bronzer, I'm going to go through with something a bit lighter and brighter for our blush. This is the Becca Tigerlily shade. I feel like I'm using all of these old, like not able to get products, but again, it's not really about the makeup, it's about the brush. And I know that I really love this makeup, so we'll see how I like it with the brush, right? So I am just going to go in very lightly, and I'm just going to come in on the side and tap this on like the middle curve of my cheekbone and apply that color, and then we can kind of start buffing. But like, I really like to be able to get like a splay of bristles to really get like an airbrushed look, and I just feel like once I do that with this brush, it's just going to be, it's going to be a bit bigger. So it just really depends on your makeup application style though. Like, this is how I prefer to do my makeup, and the way that the result that I prefer to achieve is like a higher lifted cheekbone. Again, I just turned 40, so I'm like all about lifting all the things up. Anything I can, I want to get it higher, so cheekbones included. So we are going to just apply this to the top of the cheeks. So you could either apply this way and then just gently like buff, or you could almost like sweep a little bit as well. So there is our blush and bronzer application. Very smooth, very blended in, especially, you know, even using like a blush that has a little bit of sheen to it. I think sometimes that can really show like oddities in how it blends, because sometimes like the shimmer clumps up, but this looks really nice. So it is blended out really nice and smoothly, but I do feel like I have to pay more attention to where I place it with this. Okay, so now we're gonna move back into the eyes. I'm gonna take that same 504 brush, and I'm just gonna take that deep dark chocolate brown and work a little bit of this underneath the lash line. And I'm just wiping that brush off on a towel. I'm gonna go back into that hashtag shade. That's that like pumpkin shade, and we're going to run this kind of in all the way almost to the tear duct. We're of course going to do an inner corner highlight because I'm Kelly after all, and I can't live without one. Okay, so here is where I feel like BK Beauty is lacking a brush, is something small and delicate to be able to use in the inner corner. Now, I have before used the 204 brush, and I could do that. This brush is probably like the closest to what I would want for the inner corner. This is so good for like smudging liner and everything. I want something that's a little bit flatter. So I'm tempted to try the very, very tip of this to do it. I think I might, because why not? You guys won't judge me, right? So I'm just gonna use this to try to get a little bit of an inner corner highlight. If this brush was like half as wide, and granted, I understand you can't launch 900 brushes at the same time. I do appreciate that BK launched, you know, like a set of flagship brushes and has slowly added and done it right. Like, I would much rather that than launching brushes for brush's sake and then it just being a hot mess. So I do definitely appreciate that. This is actually, oh, this isn't too bad. I have to say, I don't like this shade with this eye look, but this brush is actually getting the job done. That shade is just, it's too like almost pinky. So I'm gonna go through with the Glam Shop shade Silver Peach and just tap this one in. So this is gonna be a true test because this has some pretty good sparkle to it. And I'm doing this with a dry brush. This is working really well. Okay, this is exactly why I asked BK Beauty to come out with a flat shader brush, because this is amazing. I know that I said that this is a little bit too big. I do still stand by that. I think that, not for everything, but for the delicacy and like what I like to work with, it's a bit bigger than what I personally would have chosen. But this isn't my brush set, this is Angie's brush set, right? So, but look, very, very minimal, very, very minimal fallout. Like, I see a couple tiny little specks, nothing that I couldn't just easily clean up, and it made that shade very impactful. And there's no glitter glue. I did not wet my brush. I just really wanted to see. So this one, yes, the A505, I need 5. That's all I'm saying. So I'm going to very quickly go ahead and finish up my makeup. I'm gonna throw on a lip, throw on some mascara. I'll be back and we can chat about the brushes. I am also going to do some comparisons to other brushes in my collection. I will compare very quickly to a couple BK Beauty ones, but I know that I think both Angie and Lisa J in their videos when this brush set launched, they compared them to the BK brushes. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. I will very quickly go into it in case you haven't seen it and you just want a quick peek, but I'm really gonna focus on other brands' brushes and their shapes so that you can compare to see if you have any in your collection. You know the drill, so I'll be right back. All right, final look. I added some Thrive Cosmetics liquid lash extensions, and then I went through with the Tom Ford gloss in Nikita. I just wanted like a little color, but something sheer. But man, this to me is like, it's a great transitional like into fall, but I still want something bright look. And I have to say, I am very, very pleased with these brushes. I mean, the face looks smooth, everything looks great. My concealer applied so beautifully. The eyes were a dream. The eyes were a dream. So I am very happy as I'm like checking here one last time. I am very happy with this brush set. So let's just start with the important part. Do I think that this brush set is worth it? Do I think that this brush set is worth $125 or $112.50 if you use my code KEEPBEAUTYREAL? Just saying. But I really think for 5 nice eye brushes and 2 great face brushes, that is a great deal. And really a big part of that, I know how much I have washed these brushes. I've washed these babies over and over and over again, and they have lasted so nicely. And I think that that's going to be a big thing about brushes. It is an investment. It's not like a tube of lipstick that you are going to run out of or that's possibly going to go rancid. If you take care of good brushes, you will have them for a very long time. So I really think that, let's say $120-ish, I think that that's going to be a really great deal for great brushes, which these are. The other thing is the versatility of these brushes. Like for instance, the A505, obviously this is going to make a really great lid shader and inner corner as long as you take your time with it. It is also going to be nice if you are used to this type of concealer brush. This is going to be perfect to lay down eye primer. This will also be, again, a lip brush in a pinch. It's great for like tapping product over stubborn blemishes. And then of course we have the A506, which I'm realizing that I didn't put any highlighter on. Hold on, hold the phone. Let's do that right now. How come you guys didn't tell me? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my Auric Glow Lust. I'm gonna use the original Morganite shade. So I'm gonna put Morganite on, and then if we really want to, we can go ahead and put, we could put a powder over the top, but I think that this is gonna be enough for me. Yeah, I mean, that is like, oh. The nice thing about this is, again, you can tap it and like give it a little push to be able to like sort of buff it into the skin, but then like give it a little blend without going too far down. I really think that this is gonna be nice. I'm gonna just brush this off nice, and then we're gonna go through with the powder just because why not? All right, I heard you say it. I heard you say, do it with a powder, do it with a powder. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go through with the Jouer Skinny Dip highlighter, and we're just gonna pop a little bit of this on just so you can see. Obviously these are like 2 totally different shades, but whoa. This is gonna be nice if you want high impact. Now this Skinny Dip shade is very, very, like, it's very bam. I will say that. I'm just gonna like blend this out. But if you like a strong highlighter, the nice thing about this is because it really lays product down, you're going to be able to get a really nice bang and highlight. I think it's funny because it's gonna make powders look more intense, but you're gonna be able to blend creams in really nicely. So it just depends on what you like. Like this is more my jam, but if you're more like team blinding highlight, you have that option as well. Again, like, you know, multitasking brush right here. All right, there you go. I definitely feel like an Instagram baddie now with this much highlight on, but again, it's gonna be great for blending out creams beautifully, and if you really like to lay down a strong amount of a powder highlight, this is gonna be your girl. Now, these other brushes, I am so glad to have the 504 and the 502. These 2 brushes are definitely going to be a mainstay in my collection. They are really nice. The shape, I love a small crease brush. This brush here, the 504, this is going to be so nice for detail work. I mean, really, if you could only take 5 eye brushes with you when you're traveling, or if you really just want to have a very minimal collection, you do have everything you could need here, because this brush here, it could be your detail brush, it could be your pencil brush. If you really wanted to, it could be your inner corner brush. This brush is going to be so well used in my collection. Again, we also have the A501. Again, this is just going to be your standard, really well made shadow brush. If you are someone who likes that quick, easy look, this is going to be perfect for you. If you are a big cream user, I'm getting excited. I keep like using my hands a lot. But if you just want something that you can very easily and quickly blend out a cream, this is going to be great. I mean, truly, I think that Angie did such a great job in picking out this brush set. It is a very cohesive set of brushes. You could very easily have this set of brushes and not have any of the other BK Beauty brushes and be pretty set for your eyes. But there are definitely some that I would recommend to you. Again, if you want to know which ones, you can go ahead and check out my favorite brush video. I'll have it linked up here for you. But this is so nice. Now, I know that Angie created this collection thinking of the mature makeup wear in mind. So someone that maybe has some texture, maybe has skin that has some movability, like I said before, you know, someone that's experiencing a bit of drooping, a bit of hooded shape over their eye. But I don't think that there's anyone that wouldn't appreciate this brush set. Yes, if you are really into delicate, intricate makeup looks, you might decide that you need more shapes and maybe even smaller brushes or, you know, different things like that. Maybe if you have very large eye space or you just like really like blown out looks, you might want brushes that are a bit bigger than this. But you do have a couple brushes that you could get there with those looks. Like I really think the 503 and the 501 would be brushes that for anybody could use if you just really like simple blown out looks, but you do have enough delicacy and intricacy available with these other three that this is a very well-rounded set. Again, Angie did a great job with these. Now the face brushes. So obviously so far I am really liking the A506. I mean, I have to use it a bit more. I think what I would like to do is maybe use it like side by side with another brush to be able to see if I really feel like it's that amazing. I really like this brush. I'm excited to play with it a little bit more. I do like that it's definitely going to be a multitasker. Again, I could see contouring with this, throwing cream products on. This is one that I could travel with and do quite a few things with. And then the 507, the brush that, like I said, I really probably wouldn't have gotten. It is nice. Do I need it in my collection? No, I do actually have a couple angled brushes. It's not a shape that I prefer. It is a very nice, soft brush. If you like an angled cheek brush, you're going to really enjoy this one. That being said, with this set, it is totally worth the value that's here. But if you think that there is more than one brush that you aren't like, ooh, I really want that, I would not get this set. I would just wait. I would get some of these brushes, but I would just wait until it is broken apart and you're able to get them a la carte. That way you can really pick the few that you want, because if there's more than one that you're like, I probably wouldn't have chosen that for myself, I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit of a waste if you feel like you're not going to grab for that brush. I was impatient. I knew that I was going to get use out of all of these, even if the angled cheek brush isn't something that I'm going to reach for all the time. I will totally use it. Speaking of a la carte, I just want to say right away, the brushes that I personally would love to get once they are broken up, I do think I would get one more of the A506, just because if I am going to use it for multitasking, it would be nice to have one that I could have for concealer and one that I could use for other face items. I definitely want to get a couple more of the 505. This is very nice. I'm really going to enjoy using this brush. I'm so excited to have it in my hot little hands. The other ones are, of course, the 504 and the 502. These two baby brushes are amazing. I'm going to love having them for detail work. And honestly, I will say that the 503 is going to be a brush that I really enjoy. So I feel like this is everything that I love about the 201, yet it's a bit more tapered and gives me more accuracy if I want it. So I definitely could see having more of these in my collection. I will say I do have some similar shapes to this, so it's not necessarily something that I need to run out right now and get, but it is something that if you like a brush like this and you wanted to get more than one, I would give you the thumbs up on that. I feel like I just rambled on about this brush set for a little while, so I just want to say thank you. If you stuck through this far, I really hope that this was helpful in some way. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you thinking of picking this up? Did you pick it up? Is there a brush that you're like, oh my gosh, I need that one? Let me know. I am going to sign off right now to those of you who don't really care about the brush comparisons. I realize that not everyone is going to want to see comparisons to other brushes, so I did want to just add that in at the end. But if you got places to be, you got things to do, you got to go on the BK site. By the way, that's linked below and my code is down below. If you do want to help support this channel, I really appreciate it. If not, please feel free to just go to the BK Beauty website. Obviously, all of my thoughts here have been totally real honest, but if you are looking for a way to be able to support this channel and you want to go pick up some good brushes, that is a great way to be able to do it. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend it with me, and I'll see you really soon. Now, for everybody who's curious about the comparisons, let's get into that. Okay, I should have mentioned, by the way, that I am just going to be comparing two eye brushes because I think we've all seen a similar shape to this, and in all honesty, I have never seen another brush like this. I do have one brush, I think it's from Luxie Beauty, that is similar to the 101. It's not as good, but it is similar in shape. But I've never seen a brush like this smaller. If you have, let me know in the comments down below, but I have not. So I feel like the most similar brush I have to the 505 is the concealer F10 brush from Sigma. Sorry, this guy's, he's a little worse for wear. So the only, like, they are similar in width, but like thickness, but the A505 is a bit longer. So that is one thing. And again, I do really prefer just a tiny bit shorter. So if it was a little closer to this, I'd probably be happy. But again, this worked really beautifully and it picked up product very nicely. And that is one thing I find, like sometimes with flat brushes, the bristles don't pick up as much as you'd like, and this worked really beautifully. The other brush that is a bit similar is also another Sigma brush. This is the F75. The big difference is going to be that this brush is much wider. So this is one, this honestly I use for like eye base. I don't use it for eyeshadow, but it does make a good eye base brush, which is exactly, this could do the same. So that's a similar shape. And then I also have a Spectrum brush and a Luxie brush. And again, this is considered a concealer brush. So I feel like, to me, like this is definitely a little bit more of like that classic concealer type shape. And then I also have the Spectrum A19 brush. This again, this actually is a really pretty close one as well. I'm hoping that you're going to be able to see that. I have a feeling this darn camera has been focusing on my face this whole time. So just a little comparison. It is your traditional like flat concealer shape. So I just wanted to compare that. Okay, so really quick with the A503, this is that bigger like fluffy blender. So just really quick compared to the other two like big blenders, the 201 and the 202 brush. So the 201 definitely is less tapered, but it is a much larger brush. So you're gonna have more surface area that you're working with and, you know, a little bit more wide workability, whereas the 202 brush is smaller and more densely packed than the A505, I'm sorry, the A503. So it's sort of like a marriage of these two and like a nice loose pack. That's what I'm gonna say. You get the taper of this, a little bit more of the fluff of this one. So it is like, it's kind of like they had a little bit of a baby. So as far as other brands in my collection, I think that the closest shape at a glance is the Refer 27. I feel like these have a similar size, a similar shape. They're not quite exact. I feel like the BK Beauty one is a bit more tapered, but they sort of have the same vibe. I think the BK Beauty one is a little bit longer bristled and has a little bit more shimmy to it. Now the other brushes I'm gonna pull up here, I have the Wayne Goss number 3. I really don't even think that you can get this one anymore, but I just wanted to be able to show. Now the number 3 is a bit more tapered than the BK Beauty 503. And honestly, I think I have like 3 number 3s, and one of mine is like, it's bloomed even more than this, so it's even fatter. So I feel like it would have been a little bit closer to this one. So now I want to compare it to a very classic brush. If you've been here on the YouTube space for a long time, you may remember the Sigma E35. So I just want to show you this brush. They are somewhat similar. Again, I feel like, now granted, whoa, this E35 has been around the block. This one's a little bit newer and it hasn't like splayed out quite as much, but the BK Beauty one just has a more delicate taper to it. This has a slight taper, but this one still has a bit more of a tip. And in all honesty, the bristle quality on this one, the BK Beauty bristle quality just can't be beat. So this is a very nice brush, but those are some similar shapes in that brush. So let's take a peek at the baby A504. Again, this is the one that I think is sort of like a combo of like a tiny mini crease brush and a pencil brush. So none of these are going to be dupes, and I feel like my Katie Jane Hughes set had another brush that was like close to this one, but the one that I found is the number 17 brush, and they are similar in size, but they're very different in shape. Again, this is also more tightly packed. That is one thing I will say about Spectrum, is they don't have many tightly packed brushes. If you are looking for a synthetic brush that does have a tighter pack, go with the BK Beauty. You have more option with that, and that just gives you a bit more control. I do love this Katie Jane Hughes set, but that is one thing, is there just isn't a tight pack to it. Now, I also have the Refer 13, and again, I'm sorry, this is another dirty brush, but you know what? Girl did not have time to clean them before she filmed. So the 13 is fatter, it's less tapered. I would actually say the pack is about the same, but you're gonna get more delicacy even out of the 504. The other brush that I just wanted to compare, it is not the same at all, but I talk about how much I love this one so much. This is the Sigma E36, so I wanted you to see the difference with the BK Beauty one. The BK brush is definitely more of that like tighter pack. It's not a fanned out blender. This is more of that like tapered crease brush. So I just wanted to give you guys a look at that. So now with the A502, I'm going to show it to you next to that Refer 13 and the Spectrum and Katie Jane Hughes number 17 brush. So now we have where the BK Beauty one is bigger than these and still slightly more tapered. I would say actually the Katie Jane Hughes and Spectrum brush is probably going to be the closest of these two. So you can see there again, still the BK Beauty one is more tightly packed. So then we have three other brushes here that kind of come close. We have the Wayne Goss number 19. We have the Refer 14. We have two brushes. I had two Refer 14 sitting here. So these are pretty darn close. So we're obviously looking at synthetic versus like real hair as well. That makes a difference in the way a product picks up. So it just kind of depends. But boy, I would say that these are all very similar in the way that they feel, and they are pretty close. So I just wanted to give you guys a look at that so that you could see, again, this is the Wayne Goss number 19 and the Refer 14, shapes that I really, really enjoy. So I knew when I saw this, I was really going to love it. Okay, our final set of brush comparisons, and this is going to be for the A501. Right away, I just wanted to show it next to the BK Beauty 206 for you. So I have to be honest, I probably prefer the 206 shape better, just because, again, I think it's a bit more versatile because it has that slight bevel. I just prefer that a little bit more. This is, again, you know, you're going to be able to buff out a little bit, but it lacks the delicacy of placement a little bit. This is still a great brush, and if you don't have something like this in your set, I definitely recommend getting one. But that is why I didn't say that I would want to get more of this one, just because I have brushes that are very similar to this, but if you don't, it's a good one to snag. So that's the difference with the 206. Here is the Refer number 1. So again, this is a shape that I would probably prefer a little bit more. You are going to be able to blend and blur a little bit more with this one, but this one has more accuracy. So that is going to be the difference there. And then let me put these two together. So we have the Real Techniques Base Shadow Brush, which a lot of people have and love Real Techniques. And then we have the Sigma E25, another classic here on YouTube. So sorry, this Real Techniques brush is dirty because it is the brush that I use a lot for concealer. Like I said, I've been using a classic like blender brush shape for concealer. So that's the Real Techniques in the middle, and then you have the Sigma one on the end. So similar, again, this one is just more, it's not as tapered. So I'm not quite sure. I'd have to rewatch Angie's video to see if there was a reason why she went with a more flayed out brush. But the one thing about this is I do think that a wider bristle like this helps keep little like skips or like almost like skid marks in your eyeshadow, because like that edge, there really isn't like a tip that is going to like place too much product. So that is one thing that I will say is this is just going to give you a bit more of a blur, but it doesn't have as much accuracy. So that is it. I hope that little rambly comparison helped you out. Again, thank you so much. I do hope that you found this video helpful. I am so excited to have this brush set. I cannot wait for them to split them apart so that I can grab a few of the ones that I'm going to want to have even more of in my collection. I really enjoy doing these brush collection videos because for me, brushes really make such a big difference. Now, if there is a question that I didn't answer for you, please go ahead and drop it in the comments. I will make sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate you. I'll see you really soon.